It is often referred to as one of the safest big cities in the world. And for the past 30 years, New York City has seen a dramatic decrease in violent crime. And while there are many reasons for the downward trajectory of violent crime, one major contributing factor is the common use of security cameras throughout the city. Crimes that were once very hard to solve have become easier to solve if the crime and the perpetrator were captured on camera. But what do the police do if there's a violent crime and no available video?
Well, I was working in the 32nd precinct and I found out about a position at headquarters for a forensic artist. I presented a portfolio, and from there was a test that they gave me, and then a long waiting process, but in the end I was chosen. I have 24 years in the department and I've been a sketch artist for approximately 20 years.
When you have cases that aren't captured on camera, but you have an eyewitness, you can get an image out there a lot faster. For example, I had a case, child molestation, and he broke into a school. He went into the boys' bathroom. The victim came in, they described him. We had the image out there within 2 hours. When we finally got the photo of the individual, it was 4 weeks later. And we did the comparison, it was like spot on.
Yeah, it's not a real person that you're drawing. It's the recollection of someone at the time of a crime.
I have a bit of a background working with children. Before this job, I worked with children with autism. So one thing I learned from there that I keep with me on this occupation is patience. Make sure they're comfortable. That's a priority with all cases, but definitely with children. Some children, they may not know how to describe a certain thing, so how about we both just look through some photos and you give me what the person's eyes look like, you give me what the person's nose look like, you give me what the person's mouth look like, their head shape. When you give me that idea, then I can flesh it all out.
The way people see things actually isn't a still image. Like, we think that that's the way we see things, but we don't. We see things fragmented.
One of the biggest things for me is never bring up the actual assault. We're only discussing the description of the person.
Unidentified DOAs, it's people they find who were deceased and don't have any type of information on them to identify them. Sometimes the amount of deterioration of the body is extreme, and it could be, I guess, disturbing for people to look at. What we could do is we could take out the bad information and then just keep the important information, and then oftentimes that works for identification purposes.
He's been in the water for some time, so he had a little bit of swelling. So basically, I brought down the swelling, opened the eyes a bit, and kind of brought him back to life. "2 a.m. on the train, jaw broken, nose broken, bleeding from his nose, bleeding from his ear. And yeah, sketched them, reconstruct the jaw, reconstruct the nose, and kind of brought him back to life. A heavy drug deal gone wrong, and they ended up tying her face up with duct tape and putting an axe to her forehead. When they unwrapped it, her head was like split open. They never were able to identify her.
Then there's skull reconstructions, which that's a different job totally. Those are cases where there's only skeletal remains recovered. The forensic anthropologist will call us. They'll make a 3D model of the actual skull, and then we'll take it back here and we'll photograph it, upload it into Photoshop, and kind of nail down the proportions, and then from there reconstruct the face. For that information, we're very reliant on the forensic anthropologists to tell us things like age and race, and they do that from a DNA analysis. But also the forensic anthropologists, they have knowledge of bones. With this particular case, the guy's front teeth were missing. This guy was missing his teeth while he was alive. So they could look into the skull. They could also tell information about, like, this guy particularly had a broken nose. So those are key things, though, that could help identify someone. Sometimes people have average faces and there's just nothing we could do. And we get good sketches of a lot of people, but the person just has an average face. Those things don't stand out, and they usually don't lead to identification. But if we do get someone, a victim or witness, who has good memory and can describe this individual, and there is something unique that stands out as different, and there is media attention, we have a very high success rate in those cases.
Police have just released this sketch of a suspect. The victim says he approached her in the subway, walked her to the end of the platform, and then attacked her.
And I know it's gonna sound cheesy, but the best part is, like, really the success. These crucial cases, you see, like, we work a lot with special victims, anyone for that matter, but especially with kids.
I would say the Daniel St. Hubert case would be the biggest in my career.
But there were no cameras in the elevator or hallway. That is making capturing this man particularly challenging.
So they had me go out to the 7-5 for a field sketch, and I met with 2 people who were able to provide information. I remember it was a lady that was going into the building, and I think she had groceries, so he was coming out, and she was going in. So she didn't get a great look, but she looked up briefly and saw his face. But there was another lady who was sitting on the park bench outside, and she had a reason to remember him because he was running.
As sketch artists, we're just gonna keep doing what we do. So sometimes we're able to get an identification, sometimes we're not. But when it comes to solving violent crimes, the NYPD is going to use every available resource to solve that crime.